Being great at sales is essential to your business and your career, but you and I both know that the stress of selling and dealing with constant rejection can be an emotional drain. My entire brand, No BS Selling, is based on the belief that professional sales is a skill and not a personality, and that to be better at sales takes constant refinement and a dedication to your craft. This show is for salespeople and entrepreneurs who are committed to improving their sales skills and getting better results, and are sick and tired of the BS game that often happens between buyers and sellers. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. I'll help you and your sales team make selling easier, feel less cheesy, and be more lucrative. It's time to change the rules and level the playing field between you and the people you sell to. You're already good, let's be better.
Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. Today, I've got a really cool guest. You're going to love her. Her name is Liz Kislik. And I met Liz when I was very new to Twitter about 10 years ago. And I love the posts that she was putting out. Liz is I'll read your description in a minute, but she's a management consultant. She does a lot of work with companies on how to better manage conflict. She's smart. Anyway, I went back and forth with her on Twitter and decided I want to talk to her on the phone. We had a wonderful conversation. I've been looking for a reason to get her back and to talk to her in front of my audience. So, guys, welcome Liz Kislik to the show. Welcome, Liz. Glad you're here.
Thanks, Walker. I'm happy to be here.
Good. The reason I want people to listen today is you're going to talk to us today about how to better manage conflict in the office environment, right? That's among the things we're going to talk about. So if y'all want to learn about that, so let me read you the description of who Liz is. She's a management consultant and executive coach. Liz specializes in developing high-performing leaders and workforces. She's a frequent contributor to Harvard Business Review and Forbes, and her TEDx talk, Why There's So Much Conflict at Work and What You Can Do to Fix It, has been incorporated in several academic programs in psychology and business communications. For 30 years, she's helped family-run businesses, national nonprofits, and Fortune 500 companies like American Express, Girl Scouts, Staples, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, and Highlights for Children solve their thorniest problems. So Liz is a really big deal, and I'm really big honored that she'd be on this show. So tell me something, Liz. I'm going to jump. Sorry, I've done a lot of prep for this thing, but you're a high-flying management consultant. How in the world did you get in the management? At what age did you think I want to be a management consultant? How'd that start?
I think it was when I was doing it.
Okay, right. Got it.
I did not plan this. In fact, I've been very lucky. It's not that I've really planned what I was going to do. I just did the next thing that seemed like it needed doing. When I graduated college, I knew that unlike my friends, I didn't want to go to grad school.
Right.
I wanted to work. I felt like you could make things happen in business. And as much as I loved college and I still love learning, I wanted stuff to happen.
Yep.
So I went to work for a small marketing company where I had worked a couple of summers before I graduated. It had the best opportunity for me after I looked around.
Where were you? New York, Boston? Where were you?
In New York.
Mm-hmm.
In New York. And what was great, and I couldn't have paid for it, is that every 6 months I got promoted into a position that actually gave me the authority to do what I had been doing.
Oh, that's great.
Because, if I saw a mess, I was the kind of person who went to work on it.
Got it.
So I was there for about 8 years and worked my way up. I was executive vice president when I left, and hung out a shingle. And within a week, actually less than a week, I was subcontracting from other consultants in the field. And then I just went on from there.
How about that? So what's been the biggest surprise to you? How long you've been consulting for? How long?
Over 30 years.
What surprised you the most about maybe the change in the consulting business in the last 10 years? Anything?
There's a shorter planning window. I don't think that's a surprise, but that's a real change from 20, 30 years ago.
What does that mean?
It's just like consumers buy Christmas gifts closer to Christmas than they used to.
Okay.
So there are still projects that are planned out, and in Q1 we'll do this and in Q2 we'll do that. But um, more and more stuff has a short timeline. Are you available to do
Right.
X in 2 weeks?
Which means they're waiting to call you, and oftentimes till the shit's on fire is a one way to say it. Is that correct?
Uh, well, I wouldn't say it that way, but yes, that could be right. But the other thing is that people are just used to immediate gratification now.
Ah, yep.
So it doesn't have to mean that the world is coming to an end
Got
and
it.
that's when they finally reach out. It's more like they've been thinking about it, they've been thinking about it, now they want to do it.
Right.
So
Attention
they
span.
hope
Let's
I'm
go right
available
now.
too.
Yeah, surely
Right.
you are.
Exactly.
So how have you been able to
Exactly.
adjust to that?
Um, Sometimes you can do it,
Hmm.
and sometimes you either negotiate something else,
Yep.
and under really terrible circumstances, I have to refer them out.
Yeah. Sometimes it's an opportunity to, if somebody really needs it, if they really, really, really need it now, it's a time you probably should charge somebody more money. Quite frankly, if you've got to push something on one side to take care of it, you need to charge more money for that, is my belief.
Yeah, you kind of think of that as an urgency
Yeah.
add-on.
Right, of course. But
Right,
if somebody wants it now, right?
right.
So how did you get into how did you learn about conflict and how to best use it? Where'd that come from?
I think it mostly came from real world experience. Um, the toughest job I ever had, Walker, was when I was 23 and I was a VP responsible for a 300-person call center,
Holy cow.
which really is pretty crazy when you
Yeah,
think
it's
about
really
that
crazy.
anybody would give a 23-year-old that responsibility. But I had already been in this company for, a year and a half, two
Yeah.
years, and a couple of summers before that. So they knew me.
So they clearly were mad at you and wanted to show you how mad they were, so they put you in charge.
Well, I think I was probably the best shot they had at the time, you know?
Didn't know enough to say no.
Right. Well, that's for sure. Um, and that was such a hard job because it was never done. You could never feel resolved about it. First of all, anything that has that many people
Mm,
always has some problem, either at, red hot, blue white
yeah.
fire,
Yep.
or there's one brewing,
Right.
or both.
Right.
So I didn't like that at all.
Why
Um,
not?
but you had to deal.
Hmm.
So that was one big chunk of my experience. The other thing is that as a consultant, when you don't have to live there, not only can you see things differently,
100%.
but people can actually tolerate the intervention differently from the way they might feel if their colleague says something to them.
Hadn't thought about that. Right on.
Okay. And then on top of that, my goal is to help people succeed, to do better and feel better.
Hmm.
So it doesn't benefit anybody if I'm conflict averse when I'm with them.
Right.
If I'm not going to tell them the real thing or point out to them how they could do something better or how they could talk to each other better, who's going to do it? Then
Right.
I'm not worth what you're paying me.
Yep.
So and just luckily, and I don't know why, I'm very verbal, and I've also read a huge amount of stuff, and I can be humorous,
You
and I
can
can
be.
be, yes, I can be. I'm not at the moment, but I can be.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm very loving. And so I have had the advantage of being able to say things that people could tolerate when they might not have tolerated it otherwise. And
Mm-hmm.
so then from that you learn which things work.
Yep.
It's all been, trial and error and experiments, but then you draw out the themes from that.
Can you give me an example of where you've done that in the past? Can you tell me a story about that?
Sure. Oh my goodness, there are loads. So I won't tell you a story directly because, of course, I protect all guilty
Of
parties.
course.
But I have often, okay, so here's like a crazy example. more than you would think, I've gotten involved in firing somebody
Okay.
at a client when the person who was supposed to fire them couldn't handle it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, sure. I understand that.
Sometimes just by walking in at that moment, um, which is also hard to believe. But if you know what's going on and you see that there's a log jam, it's like playing Jenga. What is the right log you can move so that you get movement, but the whole thing doesn't collapse in a terrible pile?
Mhm.
Um, and there was one time when I don't know why I walked in at that moment, but the head of HR was having trouble firing a VP. Um, it shouldn't have been the head of HR anyway, but
Right.
you know, much of my work is not when things are going perfectly.
Of
It's
course
when
not. They don't
things
need you
aren't going
then.
so
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Um, and he was not understanding her. She was not being clear enough. He was not understanding her. All I really had to do was say what the truth was very simply. And because he trusted me in a different way from the way he dealt with the head of
Hmm.
HR, he got it right away. And then we could talk about how he wanted to exit and
So
what the
y'all had to
package
explain to
was.
him what were his fireable offenses. Is that correct?
Um, no, it was more like making it clear that all the things that various people had been talking to him were now
Finally
done.
coming home to roost. Got it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Right. So he couldn't get away with it anymore.
So
We've done everything
we're
we can.
done now. And what's the best way to close up?
Okay. That's good. I find this hard to believe. A lot of times people that get fired for cause or get fired for lack of production in my world,
Yeah.
they're freaking stunned. Everybody else in the office is like, when are you going to fire this person? The person who gets fired is stunned. They have no idea that it's coming or seem to be stunned by it. It blows me away. Um, how do you, what is it about, what's kind of the main theme when you're talking to companies about kind of managing conflict? What is it? What is the main theme that you try and carry forward with them? What is it that you're trying to really show them?
Well, before I say that, do you want me to comment on this thing about people being shocked
Please.
when they're fired?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that should not happen.
I know.
Okay, there are basically two reasons that that happens. There are some, well, three. There are some people who are pretending to be shocked
Right. That's probably
because
most
it's
of
a
it.
way
Yep.
to save face.
Yep.
Okay, that is some people.
Yep.
Um, there are some people who are actually shocked because they're not living in the real world. They've gotten the appropriate feedback,
Yep.
and it is actually part of why they are not successful. Part of the reason they need to be fired is because they don't take in and respond to what they're being told.
Is that a lack of self-awareness? Is that the same thing, or is it different than that?
Um, Self-awareness is part of it, but part of it, and who knows? I mean, I'm not a psychologist,
Yeah.
but part of it is in their world, they have gotten by sort of plowing through and ignoring the signals. The
Yep.
signals didn't help them at some point in their lives. And
Hmm.
so they know if I just put my head down and do my thing, I'll be okay, except they're wrong.
Until they're wrong. Right.
Okay, so that's the second case. But the third case, and actually what I've seen the most, but now I'm talking about not just sales environments,
Yeah. Yeah.
but all kinds of environments, is that feedback about performance is sufficiently unclear that people don't understand how close to the edge they are.
Hmm. Yep.
Sometimes that's because the person giving feedback also wants to show that they care about the person
Hmm.
getting the feedback.
Yep.
And their intention to be kind or nice
Nice.
sort of envelops the feedback,
Yep.
and then it doesn't have the weight that it would have if you were clear first and then kind.
Got it. Okay. So I love the way you said that, right? Because people are always nervous when you have to give somebody bad news because a lot of people don't like conflict, and so you're right. They will begin to say what's going wrong, but then they'll say, "But that's okay. You can work on it," and they take back any of the strength that was in it.
That's right.
So what you
That's right.
recommend is to do what instead?
So start off almost the way you started off, which is, Walker, I'm sorry I have some bad news to give you, or I'm sorry I have to talk to you about a problem. You give
Yep.
them a little bit of get ready time.
Yep.
One of the things I say, and so now some of my clients say, is please put on your seatbelt,
Ah, love that.
which is just enough time to get ready for a hard thing.
Yep. To brace.
Right, right. That's a great word for it. So brace yourself. I have some bad news for you.
Hmm.
And then we're going to talk about what to do.
Okay.
That's in the feedback stage. That's not in the firing stage.
Yep.
Okay. So here's the thing, Walker. You know we've been asking for ABC, and over the last 60 days, all you've delivered is
Less than
whatever,
that. Yeah,
less
less than
than
that.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to figure out how you're going to start delivering ABC. Otherwise, you're not successful at your job, and I'm not delivering what the corporation expects.
Yep.
So I want to make sure you understand that right now you're not delivering what we need. And now here's the tricky thing. Depends on, is this the first feedback you're giving, the
Right.
second feedback you're giving?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because at the very beginning, it's I want to make sure you know this isn't going the way we need it to. But now here's how I'm going to help you, is what you would start with at the beginning.
Yes. Okay.
Because you assume it's not their problem at the beginning. You assume it's something about the
Yep.
structure of the system, you were
Yep.
unclear, whatever. Full benefit of the doubt, you work on it. In the middle, you might say, I'm concerned that you're still not delivering, even though we talked about point one, point two, point three,
Mm.
point four.
Yep.
What's not working about that?
Mhm.
How are we going to make sure? What are the things you're committing to? What are the things I'm committing to? And we run through that. Because within another 30 days, whatever it is, here are the consequences.
Ah.
If we can't get your numbers up, and then it depends on what the consequences are. We may
Right.
need to move you into a different unit. We may not
Yep.
have a job for you, whatever
Yep.
those are. So it is successive stages with
Yep.
clarity, and it's not just the manager talking.
It's supposed to be a whole dialogue, right? Not just a
It's got to
monologue.
be.
But
It's
but
got to be.
managers get nervous and just blah vomit information, and then yeah, then they're defensive and everybody loses.
Right. So the thing that's important for the manager is to know you delivered the content and you got back language that says they understood and they are committing to something.
Yeah.
If you don't have a commitment to some kind of behavior change, you got nothing.
Hmm.
And what you want to be able to do right after that conversation or within a day is to actually shoot off an email that says, thanks for meeting with me. I told you these things. You committed to those things. Here's how we're monitoring that together.
Right.
Okay. And if you've got all those pieces, you've got a pretty good package to justify
Yep.
their improvement if they do it. Oh, good, you made it.
Yeah.
Now
Way to
stay
go.
at that level.
Yep.
Right. Or the fact that they're not making it. So then when you go to HR and you say, this individual is bringing down the team and has gotten the appropriate feedback and now is a millstone around our necks, HR says, show me the trail, and you have
Wink.
one.
Yep. Yeah. And everything's done, and they can take them out of the take the HR out of the fear zone.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard for people to deliver bad news?
Okay. So the quick answer is because we're afraid that others won't like us, trust us, respect us,
Hmm.
care about us again, and that makes us feel bad.
Hmm.
The bigger thing is we are wired to be in community with each other,
Yes.
to be in tribes. When you deliver bad news, you are in effect separating yourself
Ah.
from the rest of the tribe. And that means you could be alone in the desert, on the ice floe, in the wilderness. whatever it is.
So the one delivering the bad news feels like they could be separating themselves from the tribe.
Yeah.
Wow. I hadn't
Because
thought about
they're
that.
basically saying, you don't fit, you don't belong.
Yeah.
But I'm the one who's telling you. So I have separated myself from you. So that makes me the bad guy.
So I've thought about this a different way, and you tell me if I'm anywhere in line with this. I've noticed in myself what I'm afraid of when I give people bad news is their immediate reaction.
Yes.
I have a fear of their immediate, of how will I handle or manage their immediate, if they blow up, how will I handle it? If they cry, how will I handle it? If they,
Right.
how will I, and so it's a fear of even making that,
That's
not
right.
sure of what the next minute and a half are going to look like.
Right. Because both of those reactions, the blow up or the crying, are a way of that person processing the fact that in effect you've rejected them.
Yeah.
They are no longer in the tribe.
Yep.
Okay. And you want to be able to think well about yourself. You don't want to be a person who makes other people cry.
Right.
Or behave badly. So this is a real challenge. One of the things we have to learn is people have emotional reactions when they're uncomfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think about the big chunks that make up emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
one of them is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm upset, or I know that I'm angry. And the other is self-regulation. But I don't have to scream,
Right.
or I can keep my cool, or I can ask for 10 minutes to collect myself
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so that I don't break down in your office.
Yes. To hold on to control of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I have learned as somebody that's managed people and had to work with teams and that kind of stuff is how important, I tell people before they go and resign from their job, if they're going to go quit, is to, when they go to quit, is to lead with, I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to make you mad. Same as you, buckle your seatbelt, right? I've got something to tell you, it's probably going to make you mad, which
Right.
immediately braces somebody. They can begin to think they stole money or whatever the hell it is and say, and then quickly, I am quitting. I'm leaving the company. Just again, like you talked very clearly. And then I tell people, whatever is said between your boss and the person you resign to for the next, call it 2 hours, you need to forgive them. Just because they're responding emotionally, right, and this is their fear. Oh shit, what does this do to me? And so maybe the same advice needs to be given to somebody who's firing somebody else, is to, brace yourself, give the news, and then realize that that person who's taking that news, we need to forgive them for their next, whatever the hell they say to us that's rude or unprofessional in the next hour or two.
Right.
We need to kind of just let that go. Close your ears.
Right. I love that. I don't want I don't want the ear closing thing, because I actually want the manager to hear what is happening to that person. Okay.
I like that better.
So what I want is compassion for that person. One of the worst things you can do to somebody, now I'm taking this to the end.
That's fine.
But one of the worst things you can do is to cut off somebody's livelihood.
Right.
That's a terrible thing. Stepping back from that, one of the next to worst things you can do is to threaten their livelihood.
Right.
So anytime you're giving critical feedback, if they feel their livelihood is threatened, you have, without meaning to do it, you have absolutely harmed them. Okay? You may need to do it. It's your responsibility.
Right. Yep.
The company is relying on you to do what is necessary for the benefit of the larger organization. That's your responsibility as a leader.
Yep.
So you have to do that, and you have to be okay with the fact that there may be some pain, but you better recognize that there's pain.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't bother you, you shouldn't be in your role. You should never get used to the fact that you are causing pain, and you should never shut it out.
No, I think you just said a mouthful right there. It's that, again, it's part of going back to, we need to be human. We need to realize we're dealing with other human beings. This is not, and it just comes even more during this damn pandemic. It's become even more important that we are human, that we treat other people as humans, quite frankly, as equals. In every single person should be seen as an equal, and that is respect. And you're right. I've learned from you that it is so important not to close your ears, but to listen to what they're saying, to help take in that feedback, and to help, at least to help them and to show that you're listening, right, and to
Yes.
understand what really happened.
Yes. And there are two reasons for that. One is for them.
Yeah.
Because if you show that you are concerned about them, even as you are ushering them out the door, they may feel terrible now, but I've had industry friends when I was working at the agency. I had industry friends that I had to fire.
Yeah.
But they stayed my friend.
Yep.
In ways that were really generous and lovely. And I think it's partially because I didn't treat them like they were a bad person or like they meant nothing to me.
Right.
So that's for them. The other thing is that for you, you should never harden yourself that much. And you hope not to have to fire people.
Yep.
But part of being a leader is learning the ways in which you need to protect the company and how to do that as skillfully as possible. And so even if the termination goes badly or the feedback goes badly, then you want to reflect on it and learn how to do it better.
I also think that companies need to take responsibility because they're the one that hired the person
Correct.
that's now not doing the job too. So it's not just that so-and-so's a dummy or so-and-so's lazy or so-and-so. You hired them and put them in that situation. You've allowed them to get there and stay there. So
That's right.
We have to take, in my world, I like to say you need to take 100% responsibility for the problem.
Yep.
So does the person who's getting fired or hired needs to take 100% responsibility too. But if we don't take 100% responsibility, we blame the wrong person or mad at the wrong person for a long time.
That's right. If we thought they were right when we hired them and it didn't work out, there's some way in which we broke them.
Yep.
We bought them wrong or we used them wrong.
Yep. Hey, Liz, how would somebody get in touch with you if they wanted? Because I think what you offer is so great. If there's some companies that want to talk to you or that want to get in touch, how would they do that?
Best place is my website.
Yep.
Which is www.lizkislik.com. That's LIZKIS as in Sam, LIK.com. And there, Walker, there's so much material. I've been writing blogs for 10 years and articles, and my TEDx is there.
Yep.
And there's also a free ebook if anybody wants it.
Great.
That is about the interpersonal aspects of conflict.
Ooh.
And they can also find me on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
Yep.
LinkedIn is good. And there I'm Liz Kislik also.
Perfect. Well, Liz, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. No BS sales team, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that something rang true with you today that you hear and you could put it to use. Liz offered some great advice on how to deal with conflict. I think it can work with your customers, right? You can use this stuff with your customers, with your boss to help understand how being kind, right, is telling people what they need to know in a way that is helpful to them, right? It's different than being nice. Being nice is doing what somebody wants you to do. Being kind is doing the right thing in a way that helps somebody else. Please, if you want to have an email list, if you want to be my email list, we send out 2 emails a week, 2 newsletters a week, talking about either things I'm thinking about, stuff I'm reading about in sales, videos, podcasts, that kind of stuff. If you go to my website, walkermckay.com, and click under newsletter, you can sign up there. If you know somebody else that needs to hear this podcast, share it with them. Also, as always, please save this, subscribe. Smash the subscribe button. Get this thing every week. We got good guests. Some of them are as good as Liz. Liz, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't thank you enough for taking time.
It was a pleasure, Walker.
Well, you guys are great. Thank you, No BS sales team. Liz, thank you so much. We'll talk to you all soon.